Hey there, it's Tank Girl, and this here is the Amazon Fire phone. Now, a lot has been written about this phone, but I finally got my hands on one a while back, and I wanted to review it for you guys and give you an idea of what it's about. Now, the hardware is really cool, the software is quite frustrating, and overall, you know, it's probably not a recommendation I would make for anyone who tends to follow my blog, but for some people it might be a good fit. So let's just walk you quickly through some of the things here. You can now get this phone for free on contract. One of the big issues when it came out was that it was too expensive for what you were getting. Everybody kind of agreed on that, but now at least that's no longer an obstacle. So what is it? Well, it is kind of a high mid-range phone. It's kind of hard to place it because some specs are really high-end and some aren't. So the display is only 4.7 inch, 720p. Now, small displays are great. 720p is perfectly adequate for a display that size, but that's kind of a mid-range spec. The guts, however, are pretty high-end. Snapdragon 800, 2 gigs of RAM, 32 or 64 gigs of built-in storage, no micro SD expansion. So this is what the display looks like. As you can see, it's a beautiful IPS panel. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this display. There's some interesting things. If you look around this phone, there's what looks like 4 little dots in each corner. These are extra cameras in addition to the front and the back camera. So let me just walk you through the hardware real quick. Here's one camera. You can see here's the earpiece. This right here is the front-facing camera, the main camera, 2 megapixels. Another camera here in the corner, and then as you can see at the bottom here, there's one more camera, a home button, and yet another camera. So these 4 cameras are actually used for something called dynamic perspective, and I'm not sure if this is going to work for you. You can see it really well here. And so that's, you know, kind of a gimmick. The entire UI is based on this, and that's why there is these 4 cameras around it. It's cool, but it adds extra hardware that draws more power, and you know, it's got also infrared shining out this way because obviously you want to be able to do this in the dark. It does face recognition. It needs 4 cameras so that 2 can be covered and it still works. So not sure that's really worth the while. It's kind of interesting when you do apps like Maps, for example. So, you know, you can do things like this where it kind of like gives you this kind of weird 3D perspective. Interesting stuff. Now let's go to the back. It's also made of glass, kind of like the iPhone 4 and 4S were. And here is the pièce de résistance. It's a 13 megapixel autofocus camera with an LED flash, but most importantly, this has optical image stabilization, which really makes a huge difference when taking pictures in low light, and something that I think all high-end phones should have. So this is a kind of a kudos, a good thing that Amazon did that. Now the frame all the way around is actually made of some rubberized metal of some kind. It feels really great in hand. This is a pretty heavy phone. It feels really dense, but not, you know, overly heavy. You can see up here there's a headphone jack, a speaker here, and the power lock key. And then on the right hand side there's really nothing at all. On the bottom there's a couple of more grills for microphone, speaker. This is the micro USB charge and data port, 2 screws, very similar design and layout to iPhones. And then on the left hand side you have 3 buttons, the volume rocker and this extra button. This is for the Firefly feature, which I'll show you in a second, but it's also, if you hold it, the camera button. So it's a single detent, but hold it long and it will trigger the camera. Hold it short and it'll start Firefly. So that's basically it. Very plain device in terms of hardware, but I do think it looks really good. This could potentially be a more affordable phone if it didn't have all this extra hardware for the parallax, the dynamic perspective. So that's, you know, the hardware in a nutshell. I didn't show it to you, but there's actually a SIM slot right here. It's a nano SIM right below the Firefly key. So that's how you provision the device. And I want to have an aside, a bit of a rant here. Now, you know, Amazon has done some really amazing things in terms of the Kindles, right? The Kindles come with WhisperNet. Some of them. The ones that have 3G and 4G connectivity. There's a few of these Fire tablets and Kindles that have data provisioning, and you don't really pay the carrier, you pay Amazon, and you get basically it's subsidized by the content. And honestly, this is a really good idea. So when I heard rumors that Amazon was going to make a phone, I thought, hey, this might be the first phone you can buy that really you don't have to deal with a carrier to get. You just, pay Amazon, and maybe, the Amazon Prime $100 a year gives you basic phone text and like a very basic amount of data, like 200 megabytes a year, and it's highly subsidized by the hope that you'll buy content, right? So that's kind of what I thought they might do. And then, of course, some tiers like a 1 gigabyte, 2 gigabyte for maybe $10 or $20 a month extra. That's what I thought it would be. And you would never know. Maybe they would say, our partner is AT&T, but you would never actually have to pay the operator the data plan. And that's what I thought they were going to do. This was an opportunity for Amazon to kind of revolutionize things, and they just didn't. They went for the path of least resistance. They just basically made this phone subsidized on AT&T and nothing really else, which I don't think is a very good idea. I think they missed a great opportunity here. So very disappointing in that sense. I think Jeff Bezos could have negotiated something with AT&T. Amazon is a big company with a lot of clout, and I'm really disappointed they didn't even attempt it. Anyway, enough of that rant. So I'm gonna trigger Firefly, and now I've got some floss here. And let's see if we can figure out what this is. So I'm just pointing the camera, the Firefly. You can see the little fireflies around the logo. Sometimes it takes a few tries. But it works really well with books and videos. No luck with this. So basically this is the problem, as you can see here. I mean, this is a pretty common, aha, it found it. So what it says it is here you go, Crest, Glide Threader. So it found something. It's not, I don't think, what it is really, but this is one of the things that happens with Firefly a lot, is you put something in front of it and it doesn't really figure it out. And as you notice too, because the camera is right in the corner here, you tend to put your finger in the way of it. So that's one of the things I don't like about it. We should talk about the user experience here. This is Android, right? But it's skinned by Amazon, just like the Fire tablets. It is not plain Android. You cannot install the Google apps. So again, I know that this is me being kind of a power user and a techie person talking, and I know that some people love their Fire tablets and are perfectly happy with the user experience. And for those people, this phone might be right, although I kind of argue that it's a little too high-end for that. So the question is, for people like us, we can't really use this. This is really not worth our while because it's running Android okay, but the user experience, the UI is completely wrong. It's not Android, and you can't even install the Google apps. So if you're using a lot of Google services, you're kind of SOL. So, you got an app tray here. You got this thing called the carousel that shows you all the apps that are installed. I haven't really put too much content on here, but you get the idea of what it looks like, right? And so the new notification tray pulls out from here. You can see the notifications. You can also have some shortcuts here to turn on and off various toggles for hardware. Let's see, what else is there? Pulling from the bottom doesn't really do anything because that's the back button. So for example, if I go into the dialer here and I go up like this, it clears the dialer out. And then double tapping the home button actually lets you kill apps and switch between them. So that's basically the general kind of user experience on this phone. And then the home button brings you back and you hit the home button again and you get in the tray. And then it shows you what you've downloaded from the cloud and installed. So as you can see, I installed Facebook, Flickr. So the Amazon App Store has a bunch of these APKs, these Android apps, but not all of them, obviously. So, I've installed the ones that I like the most, like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. But unfortunately, I can't install a lot of things I really like because a lot of them don't exist. Of course, you can sideload APKs, but again, Google services is what you need if you really want to get productive. And I think that's a hassle, and that's my biggest issue with this phone. Now, the camera is really quite good. 13 megapixel autofocus with OIS. You can see there's actually a microphone right next to the the camera here as well. This is what the camera interface looks like. You can see that there's a bunch of simple settings. HDR is turned on right now. I'm going to turn it off. And you can see like how easy it is to put your finger in the way of the screen. This happens all the time. It's a pretty simple user experience. You have the flash setting up here. You have the front-facing camera versus back-facing camera. You know, settings, shutter key, switch between camera and video. And, you know, it's pretty good. Takes great pictures. You know, lots of detail. OIS really helps, as you can see here. Again, you know, nothing better than any of the high-end Android phones in terms of competition. So that's kind of generally the gist of it. By the way, these are the other gestures. To the right and to the left, that's how you get to menus in various apps. So, you know, the UI is kind of very similar to what you've seen on Fire tablets. And of course, there is Mayday, which is something that people really love. I think it's in the shortcuts here, right there. Mayday gets you a live person to help you out if you can't use the phone. And that, I think, is really good for a lot of people. Again, the UI is a mixed bag. The software experience is a mixed bag. It's fast. It feels good. It gets the job done. But for a power user like most of you readers and most people, this is really not a device that I would pick. And then again, you know, the camera is good, so that's a plus. The hardware is nice. Let's compare this to some other phones. Let's start with the Nexus 5, since it is, you know, an Android phone that's pretty popular, kind of defines the Android ecosystem. There you have it. So as you can see, the Nexus 5 is wider, but not much taller. And this is a 5-inch display. It was 1080p versus a 720p 4.7-inch display. Thickness is about the same. Here I'm turning them over. Again, both cameras have OIS, but the Nexus is 8 megapixels, this is 13. And then if I line them up like this, maybe the Nexus is a tiny bit thinner, but not by much. But the Amazon Fire phone is definitely heavier. And then if you want to see another comparison for the kind of people who are more likely to buy the Amazon Fire phone is the iPhone 5S. So this is last year's iPhone. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of a size difference here. Remember when this was announced, the Fire phone, it was basically kind of targeting the kind of people who tend to buy iPhones, who wants a simple and easy to use phone experience. So comparing these in terms of size, I think makes sense. Very different, 4 versus 4.7, obviously. And there you go. If I flip them over, you can see the what the back looks like. And then finally, thickness comparison. Let's see here. The iPhone's a little bit thinner. Again, the Fire phone is not a thick phone by any means, but it is a pretty dense phone. It feels pretty heavy in hand. So there you go, in a nutshell, the Amazon Fire phone. A bit of a miss in my opinion. I think it would be better if it ran plain Android, and I think it would be better if it was available to some kind of deal where you don't pay a carrier and you go through Amazon and perhaps pay for this phone upfront, unlocked, full price. And of course for that it needs to be a little more affordable, maybe have less of the kind of useless dynamic perspective hardware. And Firefly, I mean, you know, obviously is a ploy for Amazon to get you into their ecosystem and buying things, but it doesn't work that well that often in my experience. So please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more videos. I'm Tankgirl. You'll find me on Twitter at TNKGRL, and of course here on my blog and on this YouTube channel. Cheers!